This podcast is sponsored by the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. Get involved at fmwfchamber.com.
Welcome back to the InForum Business Beat podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Evanella. We've got plenty of news for you today, so let's get into it. The Fargo DIY Garage is looking for a new place to set up shop. Owner Chris Partridge told the forum that the math just wasn't making sense for the DIY Garage's previous location at 901 West Rack Drive. While customers enjoyed having a place to work on their cars, busy winter seasons weren't enough to carry the business through downtimes in the summer. Partridge promised patrons that the DIY Garage will make a return as soon as he's able to find a suitable location. Five Below will be coming to West Fargo this year. The discount retailer will take the place of the former Dress Barn at 1500 13th Avenue East, which closed in 2019. The storefront has sat empty ever since. A sign above the new Five Below said the store would open in the summer, though a corporate spokesperson said the opening would be this fall. The renovated home now inside the historic Fargo Laundry Building was recently spotlighted by the Magnolia Network. Keith and Rondi McGovern own the home, which was renovated by Chris Hawley, owner of Craftwell Architects and Construction. The three-story, 19,000-square-foot building from 1923 was transformed into an industrial chic home after Keith bought the property over a decade ago. The 2 years' worth of renovations drew the attention of the Magnolia Network, which sent a crew to film the site in 2021. The renovation is spotlighted in an episode of Where We Call Home, which is streaming on Discovery+. Helmut Schmidt reported on Friday that Fix It Forward is now up to 3 locations across the metro area. The newest addition is a shop located at 1224 13th Avenue East in West Fargo. The shop offers 8 service bays. Other Fix It Forward locations are in South Fargo and Moorhead. Matthew Carlson, co-owner of the local brand, said he hopes to open even more locations soon. The Fix It Forward shops help support the mission of the Fix It Forward Ministry, which offers no-cost auto repairs and fixes donated vehicles for those in need. The YWCA Cass Clay is hoping to open its new Lantern Light housing facility by the end of 2023. The Lantern Light apartments will offer safe and affordable housing to people facing domestic violence, homelessness, or housing instability. Aaron Prochnow, the YWCA's executive director, told the forum that the nonprofit made a goal in 2015 to double their housing offerings. Thus far, the YWCA has raised $6.5 million to buy and renovate the former Sacred Heart Convent at 1101 32nd Avenue South in Fargo. The YWCA expects to close on the building by the end of the month. Continental has acquired Wapton's WCCO Belting. Continental, which manufactures a variety of products including tires, announced the purchase of WCCO Belting via news release Tuesday, July 5th. Financial terms of the deal were not disclosed. Philip Nellis, an executive board member for Continental, described the acquisition as a, quote, perfect fit. Continental has been in business since 1871 and employs 190,000 people across 58 countries. The firm is headquartered in Hanover, Germany. For a long time, West Fargo's Assembly Systems was content to stick to its wheelhouse in the transportation industry. Now, the company is embarking on a mission to diversify its capabilities and take on business in the world of medical devices, drones, autonomous vehicles, and more. Visiting with us to discuss it all is Rick Lemke, who spearheads business development for Assembly Systems. Rick, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Rick, to begin here, just to get a little bit of background, I would imagine a lot of our listeners may not be familiar with your company. What is Assembly Systems and what can you do?
Well, the easy answer to that is that if you're a company that manufactures or assembles a product and you're short on manpower or space or both, that's where we can come in and help you. So I know especially around this area, sometimes it's hard to find people. And so if you have deadlines that you have to meet and you don't have the ability to get stuff done in a timely fashion, we can jump in and help you. And in those cases, it's sometimes a short-term relationship. And in other situations, it just makes sense financially to do business with us. And we've had companies that we've worked with for decades.
And you're really adaptable as well. You can, your plant manager, Jeff Manuel, mentioned to me that if you get a design, you can pretty much take it from there and you can handle it.
Yeah, if you have the drawings that you can share with us, we can pretty much do anything that you would need us to do. And of course, there's some products out there, even ones that we're working on bringing in-house right now, that might sometimes require like let's say programming, stuff like that. But we're the kind of company that can bring on somebody that would have that sort of expertise, or may already have them in-house, depending on the job.
And like I had mentioned before, you're working on a lot of diversification efforts that have been ongoing in the past year or so. Tell us about some of the new developments that you have coming up.
Absolutely. The first one that I'll tell you about, and this is actually a great example of why it makes sense to work with a company like ours. So we have a company out in Wyoming, Minnesota called Rosenbauer Motors, and they build fire trucks. And we've talked to them for quite some time now, and just got some traction with them recently when we were at their facility. And we were able to identify a way for them to go from making 5 fire trucks a week to making 8 or 9, which of course almost doubles their production on a weekly basis. And so we're going to take on some of the work that they're doing now in an effort to let them dedicate that manpower to the finished product. We're basically going to do some sub-assembly work for them, and then when it's complete, send it back to them. And the nice thing about us doing business together, when it's all said and done, the cost of doing business with us is almost completely absorbed by the fact that they have more finished product every week. So that one in particular is a great case on doing business with someone like us, because you end up saving money, and it really does something good for your bottom line. Another company that we're working very closely with right now is Boson Motors, and they have a truck that's autonomous, and you can basically do whatever you want, like with the bed. There's multiple uses, but the example that I give the most often, because I know that we have a lot of hunters in our area, is just imagine if you and I are out hunting and one of us gets a 10-point buck. We don't want to have to figure out how to drag this thing back to our camp or to our cabin. And so imagine a world where you hop on your cell phone, you hit a button, and this autonomous truck goes from your cabin out to where you are, where the deer is, and you can load it up and send it right back to where it came from. Or if you want to, you can have it follow you. And Boson actually came from San Francisco and just recently started moving their operation to Fargo. So I like to think we had a little something to do with that. I can tell you for sure that Ryan Osheim and the EDC had a lot to do with that. And I think Emerging Prairie and Grand Farm, Grand Farm is an autonomous farm. And so I think, an opportunity like this to have something that doesn't fly in the sky, but drives on the ground is a little bit of a departure, let's say, from a lot of what they're dealing with where it comes to autonomous vehicles. So I think that's exciting for everybody in the community that they're coming. And one other quick example that I'm going to give you, because I absolutely love their product, and especially with us being on the tail end of coronavirus, want to mention Corvent and their ventilators. An absolutely fantastic product with the most state-of-the-art technology. And we're looking to start manufacturing those for them. The big thing for us is that some of the standards and regulations that are in place right now make it prohibitive for us to do it inside of this building. So one thing that we've told Rich and John over at Corvent is that we're willing to dedicate a brand new building with clean rooms in it to building their product for them. So those are just a few that I can name right off the top. But all of this stuff is the kind of stuff that, I guess with Rosenbauer, we're doing something like that now. But with the other examples I gave, this is going to be new to us. And it's always a little bit scary to go out there and do something new. But we're part of a $1 billion a year company that got to where they are because they've steered off the normal path and tried something that's a little bit different. So in keeping with that, we're trying to seek out opportunities with companies that maybe aren't the same thing we've always done, but we're willing to figure it out and be there for them.
And we hear a lot of headlines these days that things just aren't made in America as much as they used to be, or that so much of the manufacturing in the US has been outsourced to other countries. When you kind of look out in the area here in Fargo and beyond, across the whole United States, really, what do you see as kind of the state of manufacturing, and how does that impact you?
Well, I would start by saying that the state of manufacturing is strong. People for quite some time now have been going back to work, and luckily we're well on the other side of COVID. Um, but on the subject of COVID, because of how things have been the last couple of years and because of supply chain issues, I can't speak for everybody, but I think by and large, a lot of manufacturers and assemblers right now are looking for quality, cheap alternatives to buying stuff overseas, because it takes a very long time for it to get here and it causes huge manufacturing disruptions. So I can tell you, we're a tier one supplier, and so we buy a lot. And I can tell you that where we can find those alternatives here in the United States, we want to be able to do that. And of course, we understand that on the one hand, it's like we don't want to have to get caught up in supply chain issues from overseas. But on the other hand, looking forward, we want to do everything that we can to make sure that we're buying American, because it helps support not just the local, but the national economy in doing so.
So really an outcome of the pandemic and some of the supply delays has trickled down to you and a lot of other manufacturers here in the US, is that people are looking to keep things within the US to try to get these faster shipping times and not have to wait for something that's on a barge for a really long time sitting in the water.
Exactly. And it's like, what price do you put on some of those? If I said this to you before we started up, that if you think about, auto manufacturers, and, we've heard this, there's a chip shortage, it's been a long time now, and I still don't think that they're caught up. And I just think to myself, if you have all these vehicles sitting here that you can't even sell, what price do you put on having those chips made here in America? Where yes, it might cost you more to do it, but then you'd also be able to put them in those vehicles and get them out to market and sell them. So, I mean, some of that stuff is just understanding that it's not almost quantifiable to know what these delays mean, but to pay a little bit more to not only get it quicker, but again, to support the American economy means something to us as well.
So really for you and for other businesses, a lot of this just starts with a handshake then, and it goes from there. It's just
Yep.
The name of the game really is just meeting people and trying to put yourself out there.
Yep. Think outside the box. Like, ask yourself, like, how do I get my business's name more well known? Because like I said in the article that you guys had in the forum this last weekend, we know what we have. And so the big thing is to get out there and let people learn about you. And then the next thing you know, you become synonymous with that line of work. So there's a lot of companies here in town that are synonymous with, different things. And so what we're doing right now is just trying to build so that we become synonymous with helping companies assemble and manufacture when they need that kind of help.
And that was Rick Lemke, business developer for Assembly Systems in West Fargo. Rick, once again, thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Thomas.
That wraps up this week's episode of the InForum Business Beat podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Evanella. Tune in again next week and check back to inforum.com/business for all the latest news.
InForum is proud to be a part of the Trust Project. To learn more about our ideals and commitment to trustworthy journalism, go to inforum.com/policies and standards.